Are you tired of your fire alarm always going off? Upgrading your hood vent would do a great job removing the smoke and heat from your kitchen. Today, Corey's going to show you how to install a new hood vent in under an hour. Let's get cooking. I'm Danielle and welcome to De-cor Homes.
Hi there, Corey from De-cor Homes. On today's episode, we'll be installing an over-the-range hood vent. Before you buy a fan, you need to know the size. Is it 30 inch or is it 36 inch? Okay, or is it smaller? The size of your stove will determine the size of your fan, alright? Second thing you want to know is, what is the fan made out of? This one's made out of stainless steel. Can it be exhausted into your house, or do you need ductwork going outside? The lights, are they little incandescent lights or are they LED lights? This one is LED. The CFM number determines how much suction your fan has. This is a medium to lower power suction. It's a more inexpensive fan, but it's not the cheapest, but not the most expensive. It's somewhere in the middle. Another thing is, do your fans have multiple settings? Is it just full blast and off, right? This one has multiple settings. When I was talking about a 30-inch space, yes, this is a 30-inch fan, but the actual measurement is 29.8 inches. So what that means is when you get your cabinet that's exactly 30 inches, there will be that little bit of play on both sides, okay? That 0.1 of an inch on both sides. That way you have a little bit more leeway. If you plan on using the exhaust into the house, you need to use a charcoal filter, and you have to make sure you unscrew the metal plates that are on top of the fan. All right, bring her on back. So, a couple things you need to keep in mind. You need a receptacle back there, or at least some power. So a receptacle is a great option because a lot of the times these things are supposed to be hardwired, or you could use a plug head to attach to the edge of the wire and plug it into your receptacle. When you open this box, there's a couple of things you have to look for. Instruction manuals. If you're not looking for the instruction manual, you're pretty thick-headed. Instruction manuals are the most important things. It tells you what installation you require. So there's two different types of installation. For this one, there's frameless and non-frameless. Frameless means that the cabinet's just a regular cabinet. A frame cabinet has an extra lower piece of wood, so if you have a framed installation, you'll have these other clips. It'll space out your fan from your cabinet. That way it looks a little bit more cohesive. You can use this fan as a ductless fan, which means that there's a charcoal filter and all the air gets blown back into your house. The best alternative is always to have it hard piped out of your house. So either straight out the ceiling or out of a wall. This particular fan had two different options. We were either able to choose a 7-inch hard pipe that went out of the house, or we were able to choose a rectangular, I believe it was like a 3x10 vent, which is more traditional. Stainless steel is a great option, but try to make sure that you get something that's a fingerprint free or something. Stainless steel, fingerprints happen quite often. You really got to maintain the cleanliness. White is nice because it doesn't really show the fingerprints, but it shows the dirt. I prefer stainless steel because I believe it to be more modern and more what people are looking for these days. This fan is an absolute necessity. A stove without a fan is a fire hazard. I was looking for all the parts and I couldn't find them, looking everywhere, and then I realized that they're not in the box, they're not on the package, they're actually on the inside of the vent. When I take this, I flip it around, you open this up. Oh, nothing. Open this side up. Look at that. All of our parts and all of our screws are all inside these. All we have to do is cut these two zip ties and pull out all the parts we need. Now, before you install your hood vent, you got to check a couple of things. So exhaust is one big thing. Are you going to use ductwork to exhaust out of your house, or are you going to pump it back in your house using a charcoal filter? Personally, you should always vent outside. So when I look at my venting options, it showed me this rectangle cutout or a circle cutout. If I wanted to use the circle ductwork, I could actually break out the rectangle and the circle. You just use a chisel and you put the chisel where the edges are and you hammer it down until they break, and then once you got one side off, you could just bend it until they all clip off. So, if you want to use the circle, you pop off the rectangle and the circle, and then you put this connection on. That way you could use a 7-inch hard pipe to exit out of your house. For me though, we're going to use the rectangle ductwork. So I only broke off one section. I put this back on, and make sure you don't install this the wrong way. And it's pretty easy to tell because the holes are actually lined up. So there's 2 holes here, so I turn it around. This matches up with these ones. And then the wide ones here match up with these holes. So you literally can't make a mistake if you wanted to. Then you take these screws and you pop them right back in. Once you've installed the connecting piece that connects to your ductwork, always make sure that this opens without any hindrances. If there's anything that's preventing it from opening, you likely screwed it in too tight or in an area where it's likely bending the ductwork. So just unscrew it and screw it back in and see where you're at if you're having some issues. Looking at your fan wire, there's always a green, a black, and a white. The white is neutral, the black is a hot, and the green is a ground. So the green will save your life, the black will kill you, the white will just confuse you, okay? So when you're connecting your wires, it's always black on black, white on white, and you always put the green on green and make sure that the green that you're connecting to is grounded in your box or grounded somewhere. One super important tip, if you're cutting something out above a cabinet, it's always a great idea to have a garbage can or something below you. So if you're cutting, let's say, a pot light or a cabinet and something, dust and stuff is gonna fall, always have a garbage can below to catch the majority of the waste. We used an oscillating saw to cut out our rectangle vent shape. Then we used our drill to make sure that we drilled in a hole for our power cord. What I did was I drilled in from the bottom, that way I knew where I was going, and then, now that I have my little pilot hole to drive into, as I drill through the top, it'll give me a cleaner cut. This job can be done with one person, but it's easier with two, because not only do you have to hold up the fan, you don't want to accidentally hit your cabinets, you got to pull the wires through, you got to make sure that your rectangle is cut to size. There's a lot of variables that are a lot easier when you have a second person. Once that was in, we took off the 2 aluminum filters which exposed the interior, and once the inside was open, we were able to fasten the whole fan to the bottom of the cabinet using screws. Always pays off to have a longer bit. This area is quite tight inside there, but we need to screw it in. So this bit isn't long enough. We're going to extend it by using this extender here. Put our screw back in, and we go right back in. One thing you have to make sure you do is once you have your 2 aluminum filters, before you install it for your final masterpiece, you gotta make sure you pull off the blue tape that's on it to protect it. So many times I see people install stuff and they leave that blue tape around, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what are you doing, waiting for a special day? One important thing that I learned in my life that really changed my life is that when I got these pre-made things, sometimes the holes wouldn't line up exactly. I was always very frustrated because I'm trying to work within the confines of how this thing was built. Then I worked with an electrician who literally changed my life by telling me, Corey, just drill through the steel. Just because there isn't a pilot hole doesn't mean that I can't still make one. So what I do is, if the pilot holes aren't matching up exactly, if I look at the top of the fan, and if I look at the bottom of the fan, and if there's no mechanical stuff, if there's nothing, no wires, or if I'm not drilling through the motor, if it's just a sheet of metal, you could drill right through that and right into your wood. The only thing that matters is that you're fastening it properly to the ceiling. Sometimes the pilot holes don't work exactly with the product that you have, and you need to use your head and sometimes work on the fly. Being able to expand your mind beyond the pilot holes that you're given really allows you to problem solve a lot faster, because you could literally, you look at the top and you're like, oh, the pilot holes don't line up, but if I drilled right around here, it would work. Oh, it looks hollow, it's just steel, boom, right into a stud and you're good to go, as opposed to drilling through the pilot hole that's just into, let's say, drywall. So always keep that in mind. That is a critical thought, and this is something that really expanded my mind and allowed me to problem solve a lot better. Because I went from trying to drill through the pilot holes and not being successful to having a brilliant idea. Now, whenever I'm working, this idea comes to my head and I'm like, oh, I just drill right through the steel. So keep that in mind. Don't always rely on a pilot hole. Make your own if you have to, and make sure things are secure and installed properly.
You ain't done learning yet. Make sure you check out our other videos, like that one, and subscribe. Don't forget.